There comes a moment in life, sometimes all at once, sometimes inch by inch, when we realize that the loud applause we spent years chasing doesn't echo quite as sweetly anymore. It is not that recognition and approval become meaningless. It's that they no longer have the power to build or break us the way they once did. Especially in the later seasons of life, we are invited into a quieter, deeper truth. The journey is no longer about proving who we are to others. It's about remembering who we are to ourselves. Self-compassion becomes the steady hand we offer ourselves when the world grows louder and less certain. It is the breath we take when no one else is looking, the kindness we whisper to our own hearts when old doubts creep in. It is so easy to measure our value by the reflections we see in other people's eyes. To believe that if they admire us, we must be good. If they listen to us, we must be worthy. But those mirrors, polished as they may be, are always distorted. They are reflections of their own fears, hopes, and dreams more than they are of us. When we spend our days seeking validation outside of ourselves, we tie our sense of peace to forces we cannot control. We let the weather of other people's moods, opinions, and judgments determine the climate inside our hearts. Some days it may feel like sunshine. On others, it becomes a storm. And in that endless dance of trying to stay in good standing, to be enough in the eyes of others, we lose the gentle, unshakable truth that we have always been enough, long before anyone else told us so. Self-compassion teaches us to stand in our own warmth, even when the world grows cold. It invites us to hold space for our imperfections without making them the definition of who we are. It is not arrogance, nor is it self-pity. It is the radical act of saying to ourselves, I am human, I am learning, I am worthy of kindness, especially from myself. In old age, this truth becomes even more precious. There is an instinctive pull to withdraw from the endless striving, to stop chasing approval like a finish line that keeps moving farther away. Instead of asking, what do they think of me, we begin to ask, what do I think of me? And maybe for the first time in our lives, we realize that our own answer is the only one that ever really mattered. Focusing on self-compassion means forgiving ourselves for the moments when we didn't know better, when we tried too hard to please, when we abandoned our own needs in service of someone else's comfort. It means letting go of the old stories that told us we had to earn love by performing, achieving, or sacrificing. Those were survival skills, once beautiful, necessary even, but they are not the tools that build true peace. Now, the invitation is different. It's to sit quietly with ourselves, not because we are trying to be better, but because we already are. External validation is fleeting, and as we grow older, we see that more clearly. People's opinions shift with time, with circumstance, with their own unspoken fears. The applause fades, the admiration cools, the invitations stop coming. It is not because we have become less, it is because the world is always moving, and it never belonged to us in the first place. The only applause we can trust is the quiet beating of our own heart, still carrying us, still believing in us after all this time. Self-compassion is not about giving up on connection or isolating ourselves. It is about showing up to relationships from a place of fullness rather than hunger. When we stop needing others to validate our existence, we are free to love more honestly. We can listen without defending, share without demanding, and stand alongside others without losing ourselves. Our presence becomes a gift rather than a transaction. The beauty of this shift is that it does not demand grand gestures or public declarations. It happens in small, almost invisible moments, choosing not to criticize ourselves after a mistake, speaking kindly to ourselves when we feel tired or afraid, allowing joy to touch us even when no one else sees it, giving ourselves permission to rest, to dream, to simply be. These are the quiet revolutions that rebuild a life from the inside out. And when the noise of the world grows too loud, self-compassion offers us refuge. It reminds us that we do not have to engage in every battle, correct every misunderstanding, or prove every point. We can stay silent, not from resignation, but from deep, abiding confidence. We can choose where to place our energy, knowing that our worth is not up for negotiation. There is a profound dignity in choosing ourselves, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of reverence for the life we have been given. We honor our journey, every scar, every triumph, every misstep, by treating ourselves with the tenderness we once reserved only for others. In doing so, we become living proof that it is never too late to come home to ourselves. Self-compassion is not a destination we arrive at once and for all. It is a daily practice, a conversation we have again and again with the softest parts of who we are. It asks nothing of us except that we stay, that we listen, and that we offer the kindness we so freely give to others back to ourselves. In the end, when the world grows quiet and the demands fall away, what remains is this: the relationship we have with our own soul. No amount of external applause can replace the peace of knowing that we are enough, exactly as we are. No title, no accolade, no validation from others can fill the space that is meant to be occupied by our own gentle love for ourselves. And so, in old age, or in any age, we are given the chance to make a different choice. To focus inward, to stay silent when silence is sacred, and to nurture the one relationship that has been with us from the very beginning: ourselves. Silence has a way of being misunderstood. We are often taught from a young age that to have influence, to make a difference, to matter, we must speak up, speak out, make ourselves heard. There is a certain truth to that. Our voices are powerful tools. But there is another truth, quieter but no less powerful. Sometimes wisdom is found not in what we say, but in what we choose not to say. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in our ability to hold silence with grace. As we move deeper into life through its seasons of triumph, heartbreak, change, and acceptance, silence begins to reveal itself not as emptiness, but as fullness. It is a place where understanding settles in the spaces between words. It is where patience lives, where clarity sharpens, where unnecessary battles lose their appeal. Silence is no longer the absence of voice, it becomes the presence of wisdom. In youth, silence can often feel like a punishment, like being unseen or unheard. There is a fierce, beautiful hunger in the young to be recognized, to be understood, to declare to the world, I am here. That hunger builds bridges, starts revolutions, creates art. But with age often comes a gentler certainty, a knowing that not every opinion needs to be voiced. Not every invitation to conflict needs to be accepted. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Silence, once seen as weakness, begins to shimmer with the quiet dignity of self-trust. When we are silent, it does not mean we are indifferent or uninformed. It does not mean we are disengaged. It means we have learned that not every situation is asking for our energy. It means we have come to honor the difference between reacting and responding. In silence, we give ourselves the gift of pause. In that pause, emotions have room to soften, and perspective has space to emerge. Where once we might have spoken quickly out of pride, fear, or hurt, now we allow stillness to guide our steps. There is a sacred kind of listening that can only happen when we are silent, listening not just to others, but to life itself. When we are not busy composing our next argument, our next defense, our next clever retort, we are able to hear the subtler music of the moment, a friend's unspoken sorrow, the shifting tides of a relationship, the quiet wisdom of our own intuition. Silence teaches us to listen with our hearts, not just our ears. And still, silence can be uncomfortable. It demands that we sit with what is unresolved. It refuses to offer the instant gratification of a quick fix or an easy answer. It invites us to witness pain, both ours and others, without rushing to mend it with words. That discomfort is not something to run from, it is a teacher. It shows us how to bear the unbearable, how to be present without rescuing, how to respect the dignity of another person's struggle by not trying to talk them out of it. There are moments in life when silence speaks louder than any proclamation. In the face of gossip, silence is a shield. In the presence of anger, silence is a refusal to pour gasoline on the fire. In the depths of grief, silence is a companion that says, I am here and I will not abandon you, even when there are no words to make this better. In the corridors of aging, silence is a testament to the battles fought and the lessons learned, a quiet acknowledgement of the journey we have walked. Silence also holds room for mystery. In a world that demands instant explanations, constant opinions, and immediate reactions, choosing silence is a radical act of trust. Trust that not everything must be understood right away, not everything must be resolved in this moment. It honors the unknown as a space of possibility rather than a problem to be solved. It says, I am willing to wait. I am willing to learn. I am willing to not know for a while. The wisdom of silence is also a kindness to ourselves. Words can be heavy. Arguments can leave wounds. Defending ourselves against every criticism, proving ourselves at every turn, justifying our existence to those determined to misunderstand us. These are exhausting tasks. Silence liberates us from that burden. It lets us conserve our precious energy for the people, dreams, and causes that truly matter to us. It reminds us that peace is not something we win through debate, but something we cultivate through discernment. In old age, there is often a deeper awareness that life is too short for unnecessary noise. Not every battle is ours to fight. Not every invitation to conflict deserves a response. Not every misinterpretation demands correction. We realize that sometimes allowing others to have their opinion without our interference is a greater act of wisdom than setting the record straight. We come to understand that truth has its own way of surfacing in time, and our worth is not diminished by someone else's misunderstanding. Choosing silence is not about withdrawing from life. It is about engaging with life on deeper, more intentional terms. It is about protecting our peace, nurturing our joy, and living in a way that reflects our most deeply held values, not our most immediate impulses. It is about living rooted in the knowledge that we do not have to explain or defend our journey to anyone else. We know who we are. We know what we have endured, what we have overcome, what we have built quietly in the dark. Our lives are our testimony, whether we narrate them aloud or not. There will still be moments that call for our voice, moments when silence would be a betrayal of our truth. But as we grow older, we learn to choose those moments with care. We learn that speaking from wisdom sounds different than speaking from pride. We learn that the words worth saying are the ones that build bridges, illuminate truths, and heal wounds, not the ones that defend egos or win arguments. Ultimately, silence teaches us to trust ourselves, to know that our presence, our attention, our quiet love are powerful forces, even when unspoken. It reminds us that in a noisy world, sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is to stay still, stay silent, and stay grounded in the truth of who we are. Creedle's hesitation to limited greeting without end. It's not walls that push people away, leviting from the inside out. Our real love, deep, sustaining, life-giving love, includes boundaries. And boundaries, when rooted in honesty and kindness, are not walls that push people away. They are bridges that show us how to stay connected without losing ourselves. For a long time, we are taught to believe that love means sacrifice, and in many ways it does. We offer pieces of our time, energy, patience, and hearts to the people we care about. We extend ourselves because love is generous. But without boundaries, sacrifice turns sour. It becomes resentment. It becomes exhaustion. It becomes the slow erosion of the self in the name of pleasing others. When we love without boundaries, we may eventually find ourselves depleted, offering hollow versions of our attention, our care, and even our affection. Boundaries are not punishments. They are not ultimatums. They are not about teaching others lessons or asserting control. They are simple, clear expressions of what we can offer while still honoring our own well-being. They are declarations that say, this is where I end and you begin. This is how I can love you without abandoning myself. In old age, we come to understand this truth with a different kind of urgency. Our energy is not infinite. Our time is precious. The things we once tolerated for the sake of harmony, we now see with different eyes. We recognize that saying no can sometimes be the most loving thing we do for ourselves and for the people we care about. Because when we respect our own limits, we invite others to respect them too. When we honor our own needs, we model a way of being that encourages honesty, authenticity, and mutual care. Setting boundaries is an act of vulnerability. It asks us to be clear about who we are, what we need, and what we can no longer give. It risks misunderstanding. It risks disappointing others. It risks being seen not as kind or selfless, but as selfish or distant. And yet, true intimacy is built on truth, not on endless self-erasure. When we dare to express our limits, we give others permission to express theirs. We create spaces where everyone's needs are visible, not just the loudest or most demanding. Often, the resistance to setting boundaries is rooted in fear, fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as too much or not enough. But with time, we come to see that the people who love us, really love us, will not love us less for being honest. They will love us better. They will meet us in the realness, not in the performance. They will appreciate the clarity that boundaries bring, even if it stings at first. Boundaries also help us love ourselves more fully. They are daily acts of self-respect. They say, I am worthy of rest. I am worthy of space. I am worthy of peace. They acknowledge that we are human, not endless wells of energy or forgiveness. They honor the seasons of our lives, seasons where we are called inward, seasons where our emotional bandwidth is thin, seasons where silence and solitude are necessary for healing. There is a profound kindness in learning to say no without apology and yes without resentment. It is the kindness of trusting that we do not have to be everything for everyone to be worthy of love. It is the kindness of believing that our value is not measured by how much we endure, but by how honestly we live. In this way, boundaries become a form of grace, a soft but firm way of holding ourselves and others with dignity. As we get older, we also become more attuned to the patterns and dynamics that drain us. We see clearly which relationships nourish us and which ones ask us to contort ourselves into smaller, quieter versions of who we are. Setting boundaries becomes less about drawing lines out of anger and more about choosing peace intentionally. It is not about rejecting people. It is about choosing connection that is rooted in mutual respect rather than obligation. And perhaps most tenderly, boundaries teach us how to let go with love. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Not every bond can survive the changes that life demands. Sometimes setting a boundary means accepting that some people will not choose to stay. It means grieving what was while trusting that what remains is something truer, something that doesn't require constant explanation or justification. In choosing boundaries, we are also choosing truth over comfort. We are choosing depth over surface harmony. We are choosing to build lives where our love is not stretched thin, but deepened. Where our presence is not scattered, but rooted. Where the people who walk with us do so with open hearts, not heavy expectations. It is easy to think of boundaries as hard and cold, but in reality, they are tender and warm. They say, I care enough about you to be honest. I care enough about myself to be honest. They say, I want our relationship to be real, not performative. I want to stay connected to you in ways that honor us both. In the quiet wisdom of old age, we begin to see that boundaries are not the end of love. They are the beginning of a more authentic, resilient kind of love. A love that does not ask us to betray ourselves. A love that can withstand disappointment, conflict, and change because it is rooted in truth, not performance. And perhaps most beautifully, setting boundaries teaches us that we are responsible for our own happiness. We are not here to be the answer to everyone else's needs. We are here to walk our own path, to tend our own hearts, to share our lives generously but wisely, We are here to live in ways that are sustainable, joyful, and free. So as life unfolds and we are given the chance to live with greater intention, we embrace boundaries not as burdens but as blessings. We see them as necessary tools for cultivating love that is rich, fierce, and true. We trust that those who are meant for us will honor the lines we draw, just as we honor theirs. We know that in setting boundaries, we are not closing ourselves off. We are opening ourselves up to the kind of connection that was meant to last. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that rest must be earned, that rest is the dessert after the hard meal of work, the prize after the race, the permission granted only after every task has been completed. It is stitched deep into the fabric of modern life, this idea that exhaustion is noble and that stillness must be justified. We learned to wear our tiredness like a badge of honor, as if the more depleted we were, the more worthy we became. We forgot somehow that rest was never meant to be a prize. Rest was always meant to be a birthright. From the very beginning, we were made for cycles, waking and sleeping, doing and being, giving and receiving. Nature itself breathes in seasons. The bloom of spring, the abundance of summer, the shedding of autumn, the stillness of winter. No tree apologizes for going bare. No river feels guilty for freezing over. No field regrets lying fallow for a season. Yet somewhere along the line, we learned to deny ourselves the same grace, believing that if we were not always producing, always striving, we were somehow failing. But rest is not failure. Rest is the soil from which everything meaningful grows. Without it, our creativity withers, our compassion dries up, our joy becomes brittle. Without it, we are shadows of ourselves, moving through the motions of life without really being alive. Rest is not what we earn by proving our worth. It is what we require to remember it. There is a quiet kind of courage in choosing to rest before reaching the end of our rope. It takes bravery to sit down in a world that demands we keep running. It takes strength to say, I am enough, even if I am not achieving at this moment. It takes wisdom to know that our value does not increase with our busyness, and it does not decrease with our stillness. We were valuable the moment we drew our first breath, and we will remain valuable long after the world stops clapping for our efforts. As we age, this truth becomes harder to ignore. Our bodies whisper what our hearts have always known, that we are not machines. We are living, breathing, tender beings meant for rhythm, not relentless acceleration. The exhaustion that once felt normal now becomes unbearable. The constant striving that once seemed necessary now feels empty. Life invites us again and again to return to the simpler truth. We are allowed to rest simply because we exist. Rest is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is an act of honoring our humanity. It is an act of love, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. When we rest, we return to our relationships more present, more patient, more whole. When we rest, we remember what matters most, not the endless to-do lists, not the external validation, but the quiet, luminous heart of living itself. Yet rest often comes wrapped in guilt. We lie down but keep checking the clock. We cancel plans but feel the need to explain ourselves. We sit in silence but fight the inner voice that demands we do something, anything, to prove we are still worthy. Undoing this internalized narrative is not easy. It takes practice. It takes gentle, persistent reminders that resting is not quitting, that stepping back is not giving up, that taking a breath is not wasting time. It is what makes all other moments possible. Rest is deeply radical because it disrupts the lie that we are only as good as what we produce. It is an act of rebellion against a culture that wants us to be efficient before it wants us to be whole. When we rest, we step out of the assembly line and into the garden. We choose to be rooted instead of rushed. We choose to be nourished instead of drained. We choose to be fully alive rather than barely hanging on. When we embrace rest as a birthright, we also allow others to do the same. We stop celebrating exhaustion as a status symbol. We stop admiring busyness as a mark of importance. We start creating a culture where slowing down is seen as wise, not weak. We start recognizing that sustainable lives are built on balance, not burnout. Rest takes many forms. Sometimes it looks like sleep, the deep, dream-filled kind that stitches the soul back together. Sometimes it looks like solitude, a long walk without a destination, a morning spent watching the light change across the room. Sometimes it looks like saying no without apology, like choosing a quiet evening over another obligation, like listening to the inner voice that says, not today. Today I need to just be. Rest can be active or passive, loud or soft, planned or spontaneous. What matters is not how it looks, but that it happens. As we grow older, rest becomes even more sacred. We understand, maybe for the first time, that life is not a race to be won, but a mystery to be lived. We recognize that each breath, each moment of stillness, each act of kindness to our own tired bodies is a thread in the tapestry of a meaningful life. We begin to treat rest not as something we steal at the end of the day, but as something we weave into the day itself, an offering, a prayer, a celebration. In honoring rest, we honor the fullness of who we are. We recognize that we are not only thinkers, workers, or caretakers. We are dreamers, we are healers, we are beings whose souls require quiet to bloom. We remember that the heart needs time to find its own rhythm, that the spirit needs silence to hear its own song. Rest is not the opposite of work. It is what makes good, true, meaningful work possible. It is not the opposite of love. It is what makes sustainable love possible. It is not selfishness. It is self-respect. When we give ourselves permission to rest, we create lives that are deep rather than wide, lives that are full rather than frantic, lives that are lived rather than merely survived. While rest is an ancient birthright, older than any system that tries to deny it. It is written into our bones, into the turning of the earth, into the rise and fall of the tides. It waits for us to remember. It waits for us to reclaim it without shame. In the end, rest is a return to ourselves, to life, to the sacred rhythm we never really left, but only forgot for a little while. And when we remember, when we finally allow ourselves to stop, to breathe, to be still, we find that we are not lost. We find that we are home.